18T-M ended FWB with 19T-F after a situation I should have stopped. Hello Reddit, this is my first post and I am using a throwaway account. Content warning: possible mentions of sexual assault. Summary: I was in a friends with benefits situation when I was 17 and felt pressured into activities by an older girl H that I did not want to participate in. It left me feeling terrible. I eventually confided in my friends, T and D, who were initially supportive, but then T began dating H, which made me feel betrayed. My boyfriend sent H an apology message, but I still feel awful and do not know how to mend my fractured friendships. I'm also confused because I feel that I should have spoken up, but H was older and it was difficult. How can I address this situation? Please bear with me. I apologize if this is unclear. I just need to express my thoughts and seek outside opinions, as this situation is quite chaotic. So, hello, events have unfolded, and I am finally at ease discussing this now that I am 18. Reddit, please do not criticize me. I am an adult now. For context, I-18, referred to as TM, was in a somewhat friends with benefits arrangement with 3 others and my boyfriend when I was 17. Everyone involved was 16 or 17 at the time, now all 18 to 19, except for one person, whom I will refer to as H, who was 18 to 19T-F at that point. Approximately 7 to 8 months ago, we all got together and engaged in some physical intimacy. It primarily involved some making out and other activities that I won't detail explicitly to avoid getting banned. To be truthful, I was not really into it. I kept to the side, focusing on over clothing stuff with my boyfriend, let's call him A, and making out a few times with one of my closer friends and their boyfriend, whom we can call D and T. I tried to avoid any contact with H as much as possible because she always gave off strange vibes, and I disliked how aggressively she grabbed me in any situation. The night itself was manageable afterward, but the next morning T and D went home. H, A, and I were left waiting for H to kiss ride and were relaxing in my room. H suddenly became in the mood. I can't recall how or why, and since we were technically part of the friends with benefits arrangement, someone suggested a hand job. I was not interested, but my boyfriend was willing to participate, while H insisted that I do it. This is where my memory becomes unclear. I genuinely cannot remember if she was being forceful or if it merely seemed that way because she was older and significantly larger than I am. She stands around 5'7" to 5'10", while I am 5'2". She also has a history of manipulating others with guilt over minor issues, so I did not want to cause any conflict. Regardless, I felt incredibly uncomfortable but ultimately went through with it anyway. I hated it. It made a mess on my bed, and I felt utterly disgusting. After she left, roughly an hour later, I washed my hands about 30 times and changed my sheets. I did not confide in my boyfriend or her because I felt scared and foolish about the entire experience. After all, since I had agreed to participate, I should not feel so terrible. But things did not stop there. About 2 weeks, maybe 3 later, H, my boyfriend, and I were at my boyfriend's place for the night, and, as expected, things escalated. H received a hand job from both my boyfriend and me again, and it ended up being messy, quite unpleasant. To add to that, H had been roughly pulling my hair and kissing me throughout the night, even when I tried to pull away and create distance. I found that very uncomfortable, but she was larger and much stronger than I was. Then, one of the things that distressed me the most occurred. H asked if she could perform oral sex on me. Out of fear of causing a problem, I reluctantly agreed. Within 30 seconds we stopped. She simply wanted to test whether I enjoyed it or something similar. I tried to smile and laugh, pretending to enjoy it, but I felt so unclean. I distanced myself from the friends with benefits situation quickly after this incident. I stopped sending messages and photos to the group chat, except a few times to maintain some connection. I started to feel really repulsive when I looked at myself, and the memories would strike me like a brick in the middle of the day, making me feel her presence as if it were real. I still experience that. I informed my boyfriend about it, and he was very understanding, which led him to distance himself from H and the group activities. Approximately 2 months ago, I disclosed everything that had occurred with H to T and D, as the feelings were persistent and seemed to worsen. I had trouble sleeping at night, took hot showers to cleanse myself of the uncomfortable feeling, and even had emotional breakdowns over it. They were very kind and supportive. Both have experienced similar situations, so they understood my need to step back. At least I thought they did. About 3 weeks or a month later, I discovered that T was dating H. T and D are in a polyamorous relationship. I experienced one of the worst panic attacks of my life, dissociating for what felt like hours, and I was overwhelmed with uncomfortable sensations after learning this. I don't know why, but it felt like a betrayal. I understand H did not intend to hurt me, and I acknowledge that I should have spoken up. I realize I am partly responsible for that, but T had gone through almost the same situation with someone else. I believed they would understand my perspective on what happened. They expressed disappointment that I had not informed H about my experience, but I was afraid of her reaction. Remember, she is a master at guilt tripping. Eventually, my boyfriend created a message and sent it to H. There was no way he was going to say it in person. We waited, and H apologized. "Hey, I just want to say I'm sorry for what I put you through. I never intended for things to turn out this way and acknowledge your feelings and reasons. I hope someday you can forgive me, but if not, I completely understand. If there is anything I can do to make amends for my actions, I am willing to do anything. Again, I am truly sorry for what I have done. I should never have acted that way." I believe she is genuinely remorseful, but I still feel overlooked in all of this. I know it was not her fault. I should have spoken up. However, the fact that H and T are dating just stings. I cannot remember if they broke up or not. I haven't asked because I am afraid to do so, as T became very angry with me for not discussing my experience with H. I am uncertain how to move forward from here. T and I were not the closest friends, but the friendship we did share now appears to be damaged. I refuse to communicate with H any longer. D severed ties with H, and I believe our friendship is intact. Unfortunately, my boyfriend might have jeopardized his 8-plus-year friendship with T due to this situation. I don't know how to resolve this or what to do next. I apologize for this chaotic venting. I am too exhausted to make it coherent. Any advice on how to address or approach this would be greatly appreciated. I truly do not know what steps to take, and I fear that everyone around me may harbor resentment. Story 2. My parents want my S/O26M to fork out $2 million USD plus for marriage. I'm 25F. Summary. Singapore context. Traditional Asian parents expect my future husband, or his family, to provide a house, a car, and offer cash to my family. No negotiation, they estimate the total cost to be 2-3 million SGD. To provide some background on my family, this is not the first disagreement we have had. Growing up, I often had to deceive them about many aspects of my life, as truly listening to their views would likely have made me an outcast. I went for meals and outings with friends, all female, by the way. Without their knowledge, they disapproved of these individuals due to race and gender. They wanted me to have more male friends, and sometimes they disliked someone for being overly friendly because to them, that is fake. The act of going behind their backs as a child already indicated that I had given up on arguing with them, and lying was simply the easiest escape. I did not have to confront them, and I could maintain my friendships, allowing them to have peace of mind. Returning to the topic at hand, marriage is likely one of the most significant milestones in everyone's life, and it seems almost impossible to resort to deception for this occasion. How can I magically acquire a house and car? The first solution that comes to mind is communicate. Well, I have certainly attempted to communicate multiple times. My significant other has mentioned the topic of built-to-order housing with me several times because we are in a committed relationship and are not young either. Given the long waiting period of 5 years for built-to-order housing, it seems sensible for us to start participating in the balloting process early, a fair and wise decision. Yes, built-to-order housing essentially means committing to someone, and I am indeed ready for that, but my parents' expectations are literally the only barrier at this moment. Some statements from my parents. I did not raise you for over 20 years just for you to help repay your partner's monthly mortgage. I mentioned that the Central Provident Fund likely covers most expenses, but that fell on deaf ears, as that is still money in their eyes. Imagine you spend $10 to buy a dog versus spending $1 million to buy a dog. If the $10 dog misbehaves, You might just let it go. But if the $1 million dog acts up, you will likely try to remedy the situation and not let it go so easily because you have invested so much in it. The same applies to your marriage. The more they invest, the less likely you will divorce. They justified this by suggesting I consider the worst-case scenario divorce. They even compared me to a dog. While I understand the general idea that higher investment may encourage better care, think of an iPhone versus a hair clip, I do not believe that a marriage can be simply quantified in terms of monetary expenditure. I tried to consider their perspective. Why do they desire for me to have a house and car ready upon marriage? Here are some plausible reasons. They want me to begin building my family with my partner immediately after marriage, meaning no living with in-laws and potential conflicts that could adversely affect our relationship. The car is intended for comfort and convenience, but frankly, in Singapore's economy, perhaps it is not that crucial until we have children. The request for cash is more of a cultural tradition for Chinese weddings, I presume. It is primarily the amount that causes concern. They are looking at 1 million, by the way. Currently, here are the solutions I can think of. I somewhat agree on the necessity of private space for just the two of us once we are married, which indicates that we need to find some way to have our own space prior to the built-to-order housing becoming available. I agree that pursuing built-to-order housing is simply a wise financial decision, so we need to sort out the gaps. To address this shortfall, here are potential solutions. 1. Rent, high costs, essentially wasting money since we do not own the property. We could either spend extravagantly to rent an entire unit or share a unit with others, the former being poor financial sense and the latter lacking in comfort. 2. Take out a loan to purchase a readily available unit. I am uncertain about the regulations regarding this. For example, if I buy another resale property in my name, I might not qualify for built-to-order housing, unless one person's name is on the resale and the other's on the built-to-order. 3. Personally, I would not mind living with my significant other's family, as I have a good relationship with my future in-laws. In reality, both of us work 9 to 5, so we will only be home for dinners and weekends. In fact, we could even have weekday dinners out. So I would not say there is much opportunity for conflict with in-laws, though I admit I am being optimistic since things have been positive so far. However, opting for this arrangement would also mean I am defying their expectations. My top 2 options to manage this situation are 1. Seek therapy or family counseling. I honestly do not think I can logically discuss this with them without emotions involved, because I have always found myself arguing about trivial issues that escalate into significant confrontations, making it seem not worth the effort. Recently, they have been asking me almost daily if I agree with their marriage expectations, and each day I respond affirmatively because I am too fatigued to dispute this topic. Therefore, I need a neutral party to discuss things with them, otherwise nothing will be resolved. 2. Cut ties or move out. I earn a decent income, certainly enough to support myself without assistance from my family while still maintaining savings. This is my last resort, as I would essentially be on my own for the rest of my life, but is that worth it for my mental health? Perhaps. I feel that apart from providing basic needs, such as housing, food, and allowances, during my student years, my parents have predominantly had a negative impact on my mental well-being, pushing me towards career paths I have no interest in, pressuring me to sever ties with individuals they deem unsuitable, but with whom I have good relationships, creating turmoil in my friendships due to their overthinking tendencies, and never being a reliable support when I share my problems, as they merely nitpick and scold, leading me to refrain from sharing anything with them. Their expectations regarding marriage will not alter over time. Even if I were to break up with my current partner for not meeting those expectations, would I then seek out another partner asking the first question, "Can you provide a car and house immediately upon marriage? If not, thank you, next." That is ludicrous. Plus, marriage discussions typically arise at least 2 years into a relationship, so I would effectively be much older if I date various individuals for 2 years each only to discover they cannot afford the $3 million required for our marriage. After all, who can realistically afford $3 million in this economy unless I start targeting older men? If you have read this far, thank you for your attention. Even if you have no thoughts, I hope you found it at least entertaining. Have a pleasant day. Story 3. I, 27F, caught my father-in-law, 67M, doing uncomfortable things, but how do I explain it to my husband, or am I biased? Because every action he does, there's always an explanation. I am a 27-year-old woman married to my 32-year-old husband for 6 years. Although I recognize that my 67-year-old father-in-law is genuinely caring and assists us, particularly with household tasks, I have caught him several times engaging in masturbation. I understand that everyone has their personal life, but he does this in places where I can easily come across him, and when he realizes I see him, he immediately stops as if nothing occurred, treating it like a mere coincidence. Usually, I act as if I have not noticed anything. Initially, I thought it was just a bad coincidence too, but it has recurred multiple times. Surely he could go to his room for that, right? A few incidents include one. There was a time when he was in the living room at night, and I woke up multiple times to use the bathroom, which is right next to the living area. I always catch him because he would be sitting on the sofa or a chair, and I would pass by. 2. I also recall that when I got married, he would gaze at me strangely. While I was doing chores, he would be there watching television, and I constantly felt his gaze upon me. Even one of my relatives mentioned it, but that behavior seemed to stop after several months. However, it has returned now. It is not as intense as before, but sometimes, while I am eating, his stare remains on me, appearing to think about something else, but his eyes are on me. I am unsure how to describe this, and I apologize. There have been moments, such as when I was cleaning the floor and bending forward, when I caught him looking at my neck and chest. I do not wear revealing clothing, yet his stares make me uncomfortable. 3. Another strange incident that occurred during my newly married phase was when my husband worked in a different state and came home on weekends. My mother-in-law was very peculiar about me locking the door at night, saying, "What if I need something, or I am scared because my husband isn't around?" So, I would leave it unlocked since I was new to the house and assumed it was a temporary adjustment. However, I noticed my father-in-law sneaking into my room to watch me for a minute or two before leaving. Initially, I thought I was imagining it, so I placed a cloth around the door as proof that someone had indeed entered my room in case I fell asleep. Each day, I found the cloth moved since the door had been opened. This freaked me out, and I began locking the door when my husband was not home, which led to a significant argument with my mother-in-law. Thankfully, my husband supported my choice, saying there was nothing wrong with wanting privacy. This made me feel secure, and the situation ceased until my husband was reassigned to our city. I believed things were fine until my father-in-law started to masturbate in the living room. That behavior subsided after a year of marriage when we moved for my husband's job until the pandemic hit. For 2 years, everything remained normal. However, after my mother-in-law's death from cancer, observing how deeply affected my father-in-law was, his behavior stopped entirely. Yet, it resumed after I had a baby. I had my son during my mother-in-law's battle with cancer, so he is 1 year old now. Due to the baby's sleep regression, my husband has been sleeping in a different room. He needs his rest since he has to go to work in the morning, and I am fine with that. Additionally, when I need to go to the bathroom or tend to chores around the house, I'm aware that if my baby cries, either my husband or my father-in-law would come to care for him in case I am not available, or they would ensure he does not crawl out of bed. However, I began to notice the sneaking into the room has started again. At first, I thought he was merely checking on the baby since my husband would be in another room, but then he began coming in when I was dozing off after breastfeeding or lying beside my baby. I do not mind him monitoring my baby, but when I try to sleep after feeding, I feel uneasy, not knowing whether he is staring at me with my breast exposed, which is strange and disconcerting. Most of the time, I am so exhausted that my maternal instinct jolts me awake, leading me to see him sneak in and out of the room yet again. Just yesterday, I dozed off while feeding my baby, and suddenly, my father-in-law called my name, saying my baby was about to fall. I opened my eyes just in time to catch my baby and realized my breast was exposed. I felt embarrassed, uncomfortable, and genuinely unsettled. However, I managed to catch my baby, preventing him from falling. While I understand my baby is safe as he constantly checks on him and helps with household chores, Sometimes it feels as if he is not solely focused on the baby. I am unsure whether I am being overly sensitive. Although I intend to discuss this with my husband, there is always an explanation for his actions, like he was rushing into the room to ensure the baby's safety. To my husband, my father-in-law appears to be a heroic figure and an admirable father. I believe my husband will listen to my concerns, but worry he may not fully recognize the dilemma I am experiencing. There seems to always be a rationale behind my father-in-law's behavior.